Mr. Anthony Heredia, a chartered accountant who has been in the investment management industry for close to 3 decades now. So currently, he is serving as the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at Mahindra Manulife Investment Management, and he holds the esteemed position of Vice Chairman at Association of Mutual Funds in India. And throughout his career, he has excelled in various leadership roles such as Managing Director at Morgan Stanley Investment Management and CEO and whole-time Director at Baroda Asset Management India Limited. So please put your hands together in welcoming Mr. Anthony on stage. A huge round of applause, everybody.
This is much easier, and I hope I don't have any more technical glitches. Vanakkam again. Thank you to IFPA, Sundarji, and everybody else, the office bearers, for giving us this opportunity. This is our first time here, and I hope it's the first of many, many more years that I can be here with you. We've heard 2 very interesting conversations on markets. I want to give you the assurance that when I say Prep for Tomorrow as the title, I am not about to discuss our view on markets tomorrow. Instead, I will probably think about talking about what Sundar sir said in the beginning, which is the topic of today's discussion, right? The AUM that we are all looking to create over the next 5 years. So I like to start conversations with quotes that I think are very reflective and interesting, because when you think about tomorrow, it's important actually sometimes to think about the attitude that you have to carry to make tomorrow a success. And I like this quote of Jack Ma, which basically says that we all have to have a sense of optimism and belief that tomorrow will always be better than today. But what I normally find are more interesting quotes don't come from successful businessmen and entrepreneurs. They come from poets, philosophers. And in my case, one of my favorite singers, David Bowie, who's not necessarily known for, profound quotes, but I think this is something that is very relevant to our industry and how we will operate, which is tomorrow belongs to those who can hear it coming. And I think that's really important, because very often in our kind of business, we are used to, because we are finance people, right? We are boring people. We like to see tomorrow. We want to, we must actually be able to visualize it. But if you think about the last 5-10 years, most of the biggest changes haven't been what you actually expected or saw coming, right? It's actually when you start thinking about tomorrow in a slightly different context, which is what I want to spend the next 20-25 minutes on. So what does tomorrow mean for us? And when I put this together, I honestly was not putting it together only from your point of view. And let me clarify, I'm not sure whether everything I am going to tell you, every single point is going to be relevant to you. I think depending on each person's business and practice that you run, there's some things that will be relevant and there'll be something that will say, listen, I don't think this works for me, and that's fine. But what I also did when I was reflecting on this is I also looked at it from our own perspective, right? Which is, what does tomorrow mean for us? And one of the things that struck me when I was thinking about this topic is the point that all of us, me included, define tomorrow and define success in tomorrow by AUM. I say this even as an AMC, right? Oh, this distributor has 500 crore AUM, this distributor has 300. I actually just did a simple Google. When will the industry hit 100 lakh crores? I got articles virtually every month in the last 6 months. Okay? It will hit it by 2030. So you see February 24, Jan 25. I just picked up some as examples. And then I asked a different question. When will the industry manage 10 crore investors? I got one article in 25, the other article in 2016. And I therefore point out this thing to you. actually when you talk about tomorrow in terms of what we seem to see tomorrow and we seem to see success always in terms of AUM. But I love this title, this concept of AUM, right? It's not a number, because that AUM is a result. And what I'm going to spend some time on is trying to give you a slightly different prism, that I believe fundamentally that tomorrow, success in tomorrow for all of you sitting in this room and for me and my AMC included, is really about how is it that I'm going to increase the number of customers I service. Now, all of you will turn around to me and say, boss, what kind of target is that? I have worked really, really hard, and all the customers I could possibly get, I have got, right? So the question you will ask is, where are these customers? All the customers who are able or willing to buy mutual funds have bought. I'm actually thinking about trying to increase my share of wallet with them. Some of you will recollect this very popular meme that was doing the WhatsApp and Twitter rounds about 6-8 months ago. Now, I don't want to spend time repeating, should we feel proud of ourselves that we have 5 crore unique investors when Dream 11 actually has 30 crore. Not that. I want you, each of you right now, to think about your current customer base and ask yourself a simple question. Does virtually every single customer of yours, is he or she an Aadhaar holder? Is she someone who uses the internet? Do they have a mobile phone? Do they actually buy things on Swiggy and Zomato? Do they use GPay? And if every single customer of yours today does all of this, then surely all the other customers who use this are also customers potentially for you, right? And when you think of the magnitude of this, it actually means that whatever you are doing today in terms of the number of customers, you're probably only 10% of what you should be doing. And that's the first key point I want to make you that tomorrow, when I say tomorrow in terms of a hearing and not seeing, I present to you the fact that hearing tomorrow is about the customer opportunity, it is not the AUM opportunity. Now, this is a topic that may invoke a lot of pain in the audience, right? We all spent 12 months ago doing lots of KYC. Okay, that's a good answer, because a lot of people, I would say the other people who didn't raise their hands, please do it. Because the moment you start using any of these AI devices to help your life personally, you'll automatically start thinking about how it will help your business. Let me give you an example. Today, more than 30% of every customer who calls Mahindra for a test drive, right from the time the person called for a test drive to the point the car arrives at that person's doorstep with somebody for a test drive, is done by agentic AI. It is not done by a human being anymore. Okay? And it started with a typical business guy doing chat GPT on his phone saying, boss, if this is what can happen, why can't our test drives have an agent doing this? Why does agentic AI only have to happen in call centers, right? So the only way for you to do AI implementation in your offices is when you start adopting it yourself. The fourth is a controversial point. Some of my peers in the industry hate me when I say this, but I think the industry has matured, and for you to grow your business and acquire customers, you need to start thinking in terms of fund house selection. Stop thinking fund selection. One of the biggest mistakes we make as MFDs is we think somehow picking the right fund to recommend to our customers is our core competence. I will give you a practical experiment I did a couple of months ago. I just assumed I put 1,000 rupees into every single equity fund that existed 10 years ago at that point. Right? So that's the exact opposite of fund selection. I didn't care whether I should do small cap, mid cap, large cap. I didn't care whether I should do Mahindra or HDFC or ICICI. I was fair to everybody. I put $1,000. You know what the result was 10 years later? The return I had delivered with that 1,000 rupees was the third best return of all categories. So just imagine, we spend so much energy trying to figure out which fund category should we do, small cap now, mid cap now. But the reality is all you need to do is figure out 6 or 7 fund houses that you can trust, that have a decent roster of products, And Vanguard published a paper 2001 called Advisor Alpha, right? Which is, what does an advisor actually contribute to a client? What is the alpha, right? As a fund manager, I say my alpha is the return over benchmark. What is your alpha? Too many of us think our alpha is trying to make sure the customer's goals are set in the right way. Asset allocation is an important part of alpha, by the way, that Vanguard's published. But the biggest thing that Vanguard says Advisor Alpha is about is controlling the behavior of your customers. If you are able to successfully control the behavior of your customers to keep doing the right thing, that's how the alpha that you add is the most. All other things are side plots. And the last item I'm just presenting to you is security. Now you may wonder, what is security? Today's day and age, one of the things I'm hearing tomorrow is that cyber crime is going to become as common as drinking a cup of tea. And so just think about it, while you are your customer's financial trustworthy partner, it can all vanish in a moment because somebody calls them and impersonates you or impersonates a fund house, etc. So one of my suggestions is, if you are able to study, research and become a much better understanding of what is happening in the world of cybersecurity, I think you will add a lot more customers. My final point, Modi ji's talked about Viksit Bharat. I just want to present it a different perspective. It is a statistical 100% fact that the maximum prosperity in a generation has happened in a nation's history only at one time, 100% of the time. And that is when a nation moves from being a developing country to a developed country. It is a moment in that nation's history where prosperity creation is unrivaled and is never repeated again. I think we should all be blessed that we are living in potentially that time in India, right? But while you are clapping, therefore I say to you, while our AUMs, while our businesses may have expanded 3 to 5x, your future generations will not thank you if you don't work doubly hard over the next 10-15 years, because potentially all of us sitting in this room have the ability to create wealth for ourselves and our customers in the next 20 years, an opportunity that our future generations most likely are never ever going to get. So remember that in context. So the end, thankfully the bell reminded me. The point on customers, like I said, this is an old quote by Abraham Lincoln 150 years ago.